So just before I went to America, I had to see a GP because I was out of cream for psoriasis. I have some psoriasis on my elbows because I collect autoimmune conditions, and I was nearly out of the cream and I was having a bit of a flare-up. So I knew I'd need some cream to take away with me. So I did what I've done a couple of times when I've been in this situation being incredibly disorganised and about to run out of a prescription. I've made an appointment at a local-ish bulk billing clinic because I know that I can get in on the day that I need to, make it a time when I can get there, and I'm in and out really, really quickly. I just need a prescription that I'm already using, and it's free because it's a bulk billing clinic, and that's a huge bonus when it's just for a 3-minute consult. So I made an appointment and I was there and I got shown in really quickly and I sat down, and there was a different GP. I've never ever seen the same GP any time that I've gone there, which again, it doesn't matter because of the purpose that I'm there, really. So I said, I'm here because I've got psoriasis, I'm out of cream. All the details are on your computer because I've had this prescription filled here before. So he was looking at the computer and he said, "Oh, I see you have type 1 diabetes." And I said, yes, I do. Of course, because the first time I went there, I had to fill in a history about all my exciting medical things, and type 1, of course, is one of the most exciting medical things. And he said, "Oh, okay, I'd like to talk to you about your type 1 diabetes." And I said, "Oh, okay, but I'm really just here because I need some cream for my psoriasis. That's really the only reason that I'm here." And he said, "No, I think actually that I need to speak with you about your diabetes." And I said, "Well, I should probably also say that I have an endocrinologist. All of their details are actually there for you. That's who I see when I need to speak to somebody about my diabetes, and I see them and they help me with that. Here, I just really need some cream for my psoriasis. I'm hoping you can give me a prescription." And he said, "I think we have a problem." And I stopped and I said, "Oh, do we? What? I'm sorry, what's the problem?" And he said, "I don't think you're taking your diabetes very seriously." And I said, "Well, that's a really interesting assessment for you to make. We've been sitting here for 2 minutes. Why would you possibly think that?" And he said, "Because I'm trying to engage you in a conversation about it and you will not have that conversation with me. I think you might be in denial." So I took a really deep breath because at that point in time I sort of wanted to pounce and attack, and I'm trying really, really hard not to do that because, I like the idea of keeping myself nice and, having good manners and being kind and all of those sorts of things. So I said, "Okay, that's a really pretty strong thing for you to say, and it's also an incredibly unfair and incorrect assessment for you to make. Today, it's kind of, the middle of the morning, and already I have thought about my diabetes probably, dozens of times, including it was the first thing I thought about when I woke up this morning because I had to check what my glucose levels were on my CGM. I had to calibrate that CGM, so I pricked my finger and drew some blood and I noted all the numbers down and everything. I also had to think about it when I was having a low earlier this morning. I had hypoglycemia and what I was going to do about that, and then make sure that I hadn't overtreated. So I kept watching my CGM trace to make sure that I wasn't going too high. And when it looked like I was, I gave myself a little bit of insulin to bolus for that. Did the same thing when I had a milky coffee for breakfast this morning with some sugar in it. I've thought about my diabetes a lot, like I do every single day. In fact, every single hour of every single day that I'm awake, and quite frequently when I should be asleep because diabetes gets lonely and it wakes me up so I remember that it's there. I'm not in denial about having diabetes. I'm very, very conscious that I have diabetes." And he stopped and he said, "Okay, I need to ask you something. What's CGM? I don't understand." I said, "Okay, CGM is a continuous glucose monitor, and it's one of the tools that I use to help manage my diabetes. It's also the reason that we're not having a conversation about my diabetes because you don't understand what it is, and that's fine. I don't expect you to, but I do have a healthcare professional who I work with who does understand it. I really, really just need some cream for my psoriasis, please." Anyway, so we had a bit more of a chat and, I spoke a little bit more about all different things about my diabetes, and he asked me some questions and I answered them, not about my personal diabetes, about living with diabetes in general. Anyway, I stood up to leave and I said, if you're actually interested in learning a little bit more about what it's like living with diabetes, at least for me, here you go. And I pulled a card out of my bag which has the details of this blog, and I said, you might like to have a look. I write quite a lot about my day-to-day life of, real life with diabetes. You might find it interesting or really boring, but maybe have a read. And he said, "Yeah, I will. I'll do that." I'm pretty sure I threw that in the bin straight afterwards. Anyway, I got into my car and went to start it up and burst into tears, which was quite dramatic of me. But I just felt so overwhelmed at that point in time and I felt really like I felt horrible. You know, I felt horrible on a number of levels. I felt horrible because I felt I probably had turned into that really snide, you know, how dare you, ranty sort of person that I know that I have a tendency to become. But I also felt judged again, and it comes back to this bloody judgment and diabetes. And I felt like I had to defend myself. I had to really, really defend myself. And whenever something like this happens, I always think, you know what? I feel really broken after something like this, and I'm pretty strong and I'm pretty confident about, you know, defending myself and being my own advocate. And what if I wasn't like that? I just would have had to have accepted that. I would have had to have accepted that assessment of me being in denial about my diabetes, which so clearly I'm not. Anyway, I pulled myself together and I drove off and you know, went and did whatever I did. But these kind of things have to stop. I write about it and I talk about them a lot, and I've been talking about it for a very, very long time, and sometimes I genuinely think we're making really great progress in terms of the way that people with diabetes are treated. But when something like this happens, I think we are still so far away from having people respect what it is that we do when we're dealing with this condition. I felt pretty disrespected. I'm going to chalk it down to a learning experience, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe he will think, and maybe when his next patient walked in, he wasn't going to jump to conclusions about them and be so judgy. And that is what I kind of held on to, and hoping that that was the outcome of that pretty disappointing 15 minutes of my life.